program is brought to you by realestate.com.au, Australia's #1 address in property. With more properties for sale than anywhere else, we make it easier.
Welcome back. Let's take a look at the auction results for the previous week. Nationally, there were 1,325 auctions with a clearance rate of about 63%. Sydney held 491 auctions with a clearance rate of about 65%. Melbourne held 464 auctions and the clearance rate was a bit higher there, just above 70%. Brisbane held 54 auctions with a clearance rate of about 46%. Adelaide held 33 auctions, but the clearance rate was pretty high at almost 70%. And Canberra held 53 auctions with a clearance rate of 66%. Well, joining me now is Anne Flaherty, economist with REA Group. Anne, thanks for your time today. Looks like auction clearance rates back above 60%. Is the market finally picking up some steam again?
Yeah, well, we've seen auction clearance rates steadily rise since the start of the year. And actually this weekend's results were the highest clearance rates we've seen since July last year, particularly in Melbourne and Sydney. So I think that this is, good news for people thinking about putting their properties on the market. We are starting to see some improvements in those selling conditions.
Yeah, are you expecting more stock to start coming onto the market over the next couple of months?
Well, we're certainly expecting to see more stock come online over the next couple of weeks. Both Sydney and Melbourne are due to see around 1,000 properties come up for auction over the next 2 weekends. And of course, as we move closer into autumn, we expect it to pick up. I think a lot will have to do with interest rates as well. We're likely coming to the end of interest rate hikes, and that will give people a little bit more confidence.
Yeah, so look, Anne, let's talk about the rental crisis at the moment. We know it's a big problem. REA Group, you've got the website as well, flatmates.com.au. What sort of trends are you seeing with website traffic on that website right now?
Yeah, well, what we're seeing in the rental market's very concerning. Flatmates.com.au had its busiest January in its 30-year history, with just shy of 70,000 new members joining. What we're seeing is that the vast bulk of new members to the site are people seeking a property as opposed to listing a property. And what this means is that there's far more people looking to live in a share house than there's actually share houses available.
Yeah, just looking at some stats you've sent me, 50% of new members in January were looking for accommodation, only 13% were offering accommodation. So how sustainable is this for the rental market?
Look, we know that there's a shortage of traditional rental accommodation. We know now that there's a shortage of share homes. I think that this is going to become an even more critical issue, particularly with our population now growing again. What we're going to start to see is, just as we saw with those rental rates rise in the broader market, the cost of living in a share house is going to increase as well.
And just some more statistics we've got here. It shows the ratio of rent seekers to listers. For Sydney, it's 16-1, Melbourne 23-1, Brisbane 86-1, Adelaide 33-1, but Perth 146-1 ratio. So it seems like there's a lot of pressure in that Perth market right now.
Yeah, there is, and Perth's an interesting case because it was actually the only CBD market in the country that during the height of the pandemic actually saw vacancy rates trending downwards. So we know that a lot of property investors sold in Perth. Perth prices for a long time were in the doldrums, but we saw a really strong bounce back in prices, which drove a lot of investors to sell off their properties during 2021, which has reduced that overall stock.
So if more supply does slowly come onto the market, will you expect these rental problems to ease maybe in the next 6 months or so?
Honestly, it all comes down to the speed at which new supply comes online versus the speed at which demand is growing. And what we're seeing is that the total number of new construction starts has been steadily slowing down. It's incredibly expensive and time-consuming to develop at the moment, yet our population's growing again. So I don't believe that we're going to see conditions improve anytime soon.
And thanks for coming on the show today. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure.